short story of Nasiruddin. Nasiruddin is a very intelligent man, but who lacks common sense. The story will kind of illustrate how this meditation works and what is the principle in a very simple way. So he's a very intelligent man who lacks common sense. So one day he loses his keys. So he starts looking for the keys outside under the street lamp light. So his neighbor comes and his neighbor tells him, Nasiruddin, what are you doing? So Nasiruddin says, I'm looking for my house keys that I lost. So he also starts helping Nasiruddin to look for the keys. And then after some time when they can't find the keys, Nasiruddin, his neighbor asks Nasiruddin, where did you lose your keys? So he says, oh, I lost my keys in my bedroom, but it's dark there. That is why I can't look for it there. I'm looking for it where there is light. So his neighbor starts laughing. And actually we all laugh at this story, but aren't we all doing something similar? Where did we lose our peace? Here. Where are we looking for peace? Outside, on a beach. Where did we lose our joy? Here. Where are we looking for joy? Outside in cinemas, theaters, movies, parties. Where did we lose our clarity? Here. Where are we looking for it? In advice from others. So this practice brings us back to the essence, brings us back to the true being who's already peace, joy, clarity. All we need to do is awaken him. So we start our presentation now, and so we do know by now that mind is the tool that we all need, but we need to understand the inner process of the mind. So first we will try and capture the inner process of the mind, and then we will try and capture the inner process of the soul, who is the master of the mind. So the first seed of the first seed in the mind that creates the process, that starts the process, is the thought. Once we create a thought, it will create a set of feelings. So let's say I create a thought, wonderful person. The feelings that will be created will also be very beautiful feelings about that person. Now, repetitively, you feel those feelings, it will create an attitude towards that person. If the feelings are good, you will have a good attitude towards that person. If the feelings are not so good, then you kind of give up and you say, this person is like that only. That makes our attitude and our behavior towards that person becomes like that. It could be a situation, it could be a person, it could be life. Then comes when that attitude turns into action. That action, when repeated over time, that action comes in your words and in your behavior. And when we repeat those actions, they become a habit. Habit repeated over time becomes your personality. Many a times we've heard to change habits at the level of habits or action. And our personality also then creates destiny. We will go deeper into the outer process and inner process later, but first we look at the destiny. So usually the way we are living our life today is that if my destiny is good, if things are good in my life, if people are good to me, then I can be happy. But what is this inner process telling us? It is telling us that if the thoughts are good, if the seed is good, then the destiny will automatically turn out to be beautiful. And so if something is not right in the destiny today, then we have to change the thought process first, not wait for the situations to change. Situations won't change without the self changing the thought process. And so we are putting the cart before the horses. We are living our life upside down today. And it's important to understand this inner process and outer process. Today we are trying to change, and even if we are trying to make changes because we want a shift in our life, we are making the change at the level of action, habits, and personality. We take personality development courses, we go change habits, try to change habits at the level of habits by changing actions. There was a very beautiful research done by a cigarette company, and they said that beginning of every new year, what happens is that their business falls almost to 80 to 90%, but they have no fear because they know it will all come back after a week because people make New Year resolutions. And they come back with a vengeance, with much stronger habit, they come back. Because changes are made at a very superficial level of outer process. But if we really go to the inner process, then we see that even in the inner process at the level of thought, there are a lot of people who say that, but we are doing positive thinking courses, we are doing anger management, stress management courses, but still somehow it is not truly helping them. Because even the thought, it needs a fertile soil. If the thought is planted on a barren land, if the seed is planted on a barren land, it will die. The seed needs to have very fertile soil to grow. And we will see what that fertile soil is. But before that, would like to introduce you to the three sources of thoughts, the three sources of thought energy. The three sources of thought energy are information, belief systems, and past experiences. First, we'll take the information. We know that the five senses, we have already heard about the sources of information as news, social media, but the big one that we don't really think most of the time is all the five senses. All these five senses, whatever we see drives our thought process. Whatever we hear drives our thought process. Whatever we speak and we hear from others' mouth also drives our thought process. Vibrations of others, vibrations of the self can also drive the thought process. So we need to be very aware of what are we taking in through these five senses. Today it is to a point where one could be doing very important work and somebody in a green t-shirt walks by and the mind will totally be distracted by that t-shirt and start thinking about that t-shirt. Where did they get it from? How expensive is that t-shirt? The mind is totally taken away from what you were doing to that t-shirt. So we truly have to kind of rein in all the five senses. We have to learn the art of withdrawing from the five senses, which is what we are going to address in the course today. And in the past experiences, if we look at, it's more like a memory bank. So whatever experiences we have had with people in the past, we carry it with us. So if I've had a good experience or a bad experience with somebody, I store that in my memory. And that is what becomes the launch pad for the next interaction. So my past overlays over the present, and it affects the present and creates the future based on past. That is why we say history repeats itself. History repeats itself because we don't let go of the history. If we let go of the history, we just take the lessons, we can create new present and new future. And then comes the belief systems. Belief systems, we are quite aware by now that these belief systems are harmful, that stress is natural and anger is natural. But there's one belief system which is the most dangerous of all. And that belief system, which is the most dangerous of all, is I am my body. And because these three sources are different in all people, these sources of thought energy, information, past experiences, and belief systems are all different. Everybody has a different source. That is why people are different. So just even having the knowledge that this information, belief systems, and past experiences can be different in different people helps us truly accept people as they are. Helps us accept their part in this world story as they are. That is why knowledge is so powerful to have. But we will get into how this I am my body can be the most dangerous of all belief systems. As we said, if the soil is fertile, then the thought planted in that soil, the seed planted in that soil, will come to fruition without much effort. But today, what are we doing? So in this Raja Yoga meditation, before we go into body and soul, before we go into the identification with the body, that we have started identifying the self as the body, the self as the role, the nationality. The real being is the soul, that tiny point of light that is behind the eyes, is an immortal being of light. He has no gender, he has no nationality, no religion. His skills are his virtues and spiritual powers. His religion is peace. His nationality, he is a child of the Supreme Soul. He belongs to a spiritual dimension. His wealth is his qualities. This is the being, the real, true, living being that each one of us is. Hold this awareness. We are immortal beings. And then we will go into how that impacts the thought process. So before we go into this bigger map, wanted to share a brief description of Sunita Williams. She is an Indian astronaut, and she came back from the moon, and she gave her experience and shared her experience about what she felt when she was up there. And what she said was that she felt a very real experience of a world beyond the physical world. But she said that science does not have the depth of spirituality to get there, and that we cannot get there with our physical bodies. Interesting, right? And if we read the autobiographies of most of the astronauts, we will see that their perception on life changes completely. And we have all heard and seen that we talk about being a guest in this world. This idea is, we are very familiar with this idea. It's not a new idea. Being a traveler, being a guest. But if this visual image will help you see the world of the inner being as a traveler. So let's look at it. There is a spiritual dimension, and then there is a physical dimension. And this inner being, who is a traveler, he comes from home of the spiritual dimension. He comes here as a guest, enters a body, and he is aware, he is an awake being in the beginning. He comes, travels through time, he knows there's an end, and then he goes back home. That is the traveler idea. The guest is free, the traveler is secure in knowing he has a home that he can go back to. We will look at this physical world. Let's take a look at Susan, who's in the invisible being enters this body, whose name is Susan. The name of the body is kept Susan. In the beginning, he's very awake and aware that this physical being has taken a body and traveling through time. But as time goes by, he forgets who he is. And so he starts thinking of this world of sound, this world of change, this world of perishable things, this world of everything that comes to an end. This world is what becomes his home. She becomes identified with education, with the wealth, with the culture, with the role, with the job, with nationality, and with different skills. So that becomes the identity of Susan. Anything that threatens any one of these things is a threat to Susan. And so she is always living in fear of losing these things. Because by owning them, she is feeling she exists. And now, we will see how these ego identities develop. These ego identities truly make one very vulnerable to change. And change doesn't knock on the door. The change doesn't knock on the door and tell you, I'm coming. He comes without any warning, as we can see that today. The change comes without warning. So in meditation, what we are trying to do, so now let's see, Susan has started to meditate. Susan has started the meditation practice, and she is now becoming aware that the inner being, that true being, is the true self, and Susan is just the body. And Susan, being just the body, is now becoming aware that the soul is the immortal being, the perspective of the awake soul. He's a master, he's a prince, he's eternal, doesn't own anything. He has come here to enjoy, to experience the colors and the variety. He has come here to see everything as a gift. This invisible being, the star, he's here and he knows that he owns nothing, so he can't lose anything. with that sense of deep security, knowing that everything is in this world perishable, but the being himself is imperishable. He has got this body for a temporary period of time. So he enjoys every interaction as a gift because he knows everybody is safe. All the beings are points of light. He comes from a home of silence, a home that is timeless, a home that is changeless, endless sky of light, where there is no sound, no matter, and that is why it is timeless. Completely equanimous, silent being of light. And it's normal for him to feel worthy, to feel loved, to be from home of silence and stillness. So he can enjoy both the worlds. He has the potential to connect with the supreme abode, and he has potential to enjoy the physical world with its ever-changing variety. He can do both, this invisible being. He can do both. Everything here is extra for him. He can exist without the physical world. He doesn't need this physical world to start with. But he comes here as a traveler. He likes to travel. So he comes here as a traveler. But what has happened is that because he has forgotten it, forgotten who he is, he's also forgotten where his home is, and he's also forgotten who is his father, the Supreme Soul. And as a result, there is suffering and pain. There is fear, insecurities. And so now, after starting the meditation, he's now beginning to awaken, and he's beginning to come to know that he belongs to this world, and then that he has a family of souls who are eternal. And all these souls have a part that they have been given to play on the physical world. But his true family is the family of eternal beings of light. His true family is the family of these divine, elegant, perfect beings of beauty, who are perfect and who are loved by God, loved by the Supreme Soul, respected by the Supreme Soul. They have everything. They need nothing from the physical world to exist. And when we start emerging that, when we start emerging this experience of the Supreme Abode, of the home, it truly deepens a deep sense of belonging and a free, secure mindset. And once we come to know that we have a family of souls, we are the family of souls, we are the beings of light, we also have a parent who is a supreme soul, the one who holds this complete bigger map, the big picture, complete perspective all the time, one who is always in clarity, originality, the highest attitude, the highest on high, the state of awareness that he has. And that is why he is the ocean of peace, bliss, supreme in every quality. This is once he gets to have his soul identity very clear in his mind, then he has no fear. Just remembering. The beauty of this meditation is not just a technique, but it's remembrance of who am I. It's a remembrance of where do I come from. It's a remembrance of who do I belong to. And when the when this invisible traveler, he gets connected to his Father, the Supreme Soul, then he truly feels a deep sense of love and belonging. And that unconditional love fills him so much that when he comes to this world to play the game of life, he's already full. He's coming here completely feeling secured and to give. He has nothing to take from the physical world, from nobody. His only mission here is to come and give. It is very easily possible only when one knows one's true identity. Because for as long as one is caught up in the identity of the ego, which we will see what happens, that in the ego identity, when one is caught up in the false identities, let's say I'm a mother or I'm a professor, then there will always be an insecurity within. One would always need recognition for being a professor. There will be desires that people should recognize me and acknowledge me, or at least they should come to know I'm a professor, so I will go and introduce myself as a professor. There will be desperation if those desires are not fulfilled. There is boredom, and there will always be stress regarding the job as to what is this job bringing me that quality of success that I'm looking for. Because my identification is with the job, there will be anxiety and worry related to it. There could also be anger if he's not recognized as a professor. There could also be depression if the job is lost, and that could lead to a sense of failure. And if somebody is better than him, there could be envy. This is what happens when the thoughts are based on ego identities on the physical body. When we are living in one dimension of the physical world, and we don't even know about the other dimension, then we truly don't even have a choice. We can keep creating beautiful, positive thoughts, but the ground is not fertile. The ground is a body consciousness, ego consciousness. The identity is based on ego of the body. So these things that we truly want to feel deep security and deep peace, it can only emerge from the true identity of the self. And that true identity of the self is the identity of being soul conscious. And this is the experience that we have when we have this true identity. This is our thought process. The soul who is aware, the soul who is awake. He knows he owns nothing. We are using the word he, which means all of us, because the I and mine words, they kind of induce a lot of attachment feelings to the body. So we are referring to he, but he means all of us, all the souls of the world, the divine souls of the world. So this being, this invisible star, this majestic soul, the majestic soul, he owns nothing. He knows he is eternal. His journey is eternal. So he knows he can't lose anything if he owns nothing. And that sense of knowing his home, knowing his Supreme Father, knowing himself as an immortal, eternal being, brings such a deep sense of security within, and that brings contentment. And when there is contentment, there is no jealousy, there is no envy, there are no desires. You know the story world can't give you anything because everything in this world of matter is perishable. Everything in this world of matter is changeable. Everything in this world of matter will come to an end. It is constantly changing. So if you base your security on something that is constantly changing, which is body as well, body is made of 5 elements of matter. then, even then, if the security is based on that sense, it can never be, it's impossible actually. So contentment and peace will come from a place of deep security of knowing that who you are truly. And that peace will bring naturally joy and bliss. You don't need to go look out for it. It's there naturally. That's the natural nature of the soul, is to be peaceful, is to be joyful. And then you can feel love and peace, true love, unconditional love and peace and mercy for others. Because you know their true being is also a point of light. They're wearing this costume, this prop. There are so many props. They're wearing this costume just for a short period of time. But the truth is that they are eternal beings of light. Knowing that brings a deep sense of contentment. And out of contentment is born love. Knowing who you belong to. The Supreme Father, the Supreme Mother, the Supreme Friend. You can have any relationship you want with that Supreme Soul. And that is what is truly healing and bringing the soul back to its original posture. And when the soul is back to its original posture, there is no room for pain. Because soul's natural quality is to be peaceful, to be blissful, to be joyful. And so we will now see how do we achieve that. That is why now we know that the thoughts have to have we are emphasizing it because sometimes we just start even at the level of thought, and that is not enough. The ground has to be fertile for the thought to take roots. No matter how powerful the thought may be, if the consciousness is not right, it cannot take root. You may feel good for a short while, but we will be back to the old habit. So now we look at the process of how the soul, who's a king, who's a prince, who has now fallen asleep, and a prince is thinking he's a beggar, he's a pauper. Now we need to bring the inner kingdom of the soul back in order. So this king has two ministers, mind and sanskaras. Intellect is the director, but the king has two ministers, mind and sanskaras, which is the subconscious mind, which we saw earlier, that lots of thoughts are kind of from past experiences. All the false identities that we have gathered with the body are kind of stored in this subconscious mind, that I'm a mother, I'm identified by my job, and all of these things are stored in the subconscious mind. All the different past experiences of this lifetime and many lifetimes are stored in the subconscious mind. So we will take a look at how it works. And this is where we have to have a strategy, right? In a war, you need a strategy. So what we need to do is truly understand the soldiers, yeah? And we need to train the soldiers, we need to train the ministers to win this war. And we will see how we achieve that. It's very easy actually. And we will look at the first bar, the mind, which is the minister. The first minister, think of it as a stage. And there are different lines which are showing these are like all different thoughts. These thoughts are the actors on the stage. Now these thoughts that are actors on the stage, once they're on the stage, they want to stay on the stage. And the more we think about it, the more they stay on that stage. And as we have seen, each thought has its own world. Every thought leads to its own feelings, its own emotions, its own mood. It creates its own atmosphere, every thought. So we are seeing is that once these thoughts are on the stage, they do not want to leave, and that there can only be one thought at a time on the stage. That is very important to note, only one thought at a time on the stage. We can have many quick thoughts in quick succession, but at a time there can only be one thought on the stage. Then we will come to the second box, which is the sanskaras, the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is where we have all the impressions stored, all the false identities stored. And we're not even aware most of the time of many sanskaras, and sometimes we are aware of it. So let's say, for example, you ate an ice cream today, and you ate an ice cream, you loved the taste of the ice cream, you had joy and pleasure in eating that ice cream. And that memory is now stored of that joy and pleasure that you derived from eating that ice cream. Now, this subconscious mind, the sanskaras, will push that thought on the mind. It will just push it on the mind so that it becomes on the main stage, and then it is put into action through the body. And once it comes into action through the body, then that thought becomes very powerful, and then we act upon it without even thinking. And that is when it becomes an automatic process. But the good thing is, there is a third faculty called the intellect. And this intellect is the director. Today he is sleeping and snoring. And because he's sleeping and snoring, nobody respects him. All the actors are running amok. They all want to come on the main stage. They all want to be protagonists on the main stage of mind. And so the intellect, the director, has to wake up. And this whole practice of this meditation of Raja Yoga is to awaken the intellect, to awaken the king, so that he can take charge and direct. And so the director who has a limited, there are two types of intellect, limited intellect and unlimited intellect. The limited intellect is only caught up in the worldly things. The limited intellect can only think about the physical world and the one dimension. He only thinks about the life as a beginning and has an end. Life is all about eat, drink, be merry, and then suffer. So he's born as no one and as nobody. He accumulates things through life, people, relationships, name, and then he is in fear of losing all of that, and then he becomes somebody, but before he leaves the body, he can't take anything with him, and he dies as nobody. He leaves the body as nobody. That is for the limited, ignorant intellect. But there is another faculty of intellect that we all have, without exception. It's the part of the soul which is sleeping. And that part of the soul, that is the unlimited intellect, that part of the soul that is unlimited intellect is this little tiny red dot that you're seeing here. This is the soul consciousness that is sleeping today in our subconscious mind. We need to awaken the soul. And for that, all we need to do is stop the supplies to the, stop the supply to the, to that little devil mind, that limited, ignorant mind. We stop the supply by nourishing this angelic soul over here, that red dot. We are just nourishing that red dot, that soul. But we are nourishing through spiritual wisdom, through spiritual knowledge, through spiritual study. We are nourishing this tiny being of light. And then we hold those thoughts in the mind we hold those thoughts in the mind over here for as long as we can. And now we know that the thoughts have its own world. And when those thoughts become powerful, they create the world of the soul conscious state in this mind. The mind is now taken over by the soul conscious thoughts and the soul conscious awareness. The awake soul takes over the sleeping intellect. So that is how we are trying to awaken, and we have to nourish. And we have to starve. We have to starve the little demon, that limited intellect, and we have to nourish that dot that is tiny right now, squeezed in a corner, but it will awaken. But we have to nourish it with knowledge and practice, everyday practice. That is very important. And that is when that unlimited divine intellect takes over and the king is awake. We are just doing awakening over here of the king, nothing more, because the king already has all the powers. And we can see that the aim of Raja Yoga meditation is actually, the mind today is filled with these little I's. I am this, I have this is mine, that is mine, all of that. And that little soul in the corner is just sitting very, very quiet. The little soul in the corner here is sitting very quiet over here. But as we saw how we can awaken and just have these ego identities merge with the practice of meditation and spirituality, and we can bring the mind back to this mind of soul conscious state, completely soul conscious state. And when that mind that is truly soul conscious will have the home very clearly in the mind, and that little physical world will be very small. The thoughts about the physical world will be very small, will be very few. There will be more and more thoughts about the eternal home, the eternal family, the eternal Father, the immortal beings of light who are divine, who are beyond harm, who are safe, eternally safe. That will be much bigger in the mind that is soul conscious. So this is the aim of Raja Yoga, to move from body conscious mind that is ego-filled, false identities, and have this innocent angel, the angelic soul that is being harassed by ego, to free from ego and become the king and the master again. And that is by knowledge of both the dimensions, the spiritual dimension and the physical dimension, so that we can play this game of life in this world of material as a master, as a king, when the angelic being is aware he has a home already. He has a family which is imperishable, timeless. So to end this, we will actually go into a story, which is a beautiful story. We all have heard it, but this time we will look at it from a spiritual, sitting as a soul in the soul world. We will look and hear the story from a spiritual perspective. So as we know that there is a chicken, and then there are eggs that a hen has laid, but in those eggs gets the egg of the eagle mixed up. And the mother hen has a very big heart. So she hatches the egg, and then the baby eagle is born. So she teaches all of them how to collect the grains, how to collect the worms, and how to sleep in the chicken coop. So one day, they're all collecting the grains, and this baby eagle looks up at the sky because there's a shadow on him. And he sees there's a beautiful, majestic bird up there. And there's a deep desire in him to want to fly. Just like that eagle soaring in the sky, flying with the clouds, close to the sun, looking at the ocean down below. So he tells his brother he wants to fly. So his brother says, silly, we are birds of ground. That is the bird of sky. We can't do that. We just have to collect the grains, collect the worms, and go sleep in the chicken coop. So then this eagle at night, because he really wants to fly, when everybody's sleeping, he tries to flap his wings to fly. But because he's very young, his muscles are not developed. So he tries to fly, he falls down. He tries to fly, he falls down. And then his brother wakes up and he says, what are you doing? Flying is not for us. We are chickens. So he then thinks about that bird, and then he looks at his brother, and then he just listens to his brother and goes and sleeps in the chicken coop and dies like a chicken. So the spiritual perspective is, don't listen to the chickens. The chickens are not only just outside, but the chickens are also in our mind. These thoughts that speak. What are you talking about immortality? What are you talking about that spiritual dimension? Mind will speak those thoughts because mind has the habit of having a chicken talk. So what we have to do is understand that we have the heart of an eagle. We have the nature of an angelic star, the angelic soul. Meditation is teaching us to acknowledge we are the eagles. We are the angels. We are not the chickens. And we have to allow those noble thoughts, we have to allow these elevated thoughts to seep the mind, to flood the mind. And when we allow that to happen, then we can fly. We may even fall many times, but we get back up and we keep trying to fly until we fly. And we even may become, those who do not try to become or fly like an eagle, they may even become very, very good, perfect chickens. But they will never taste the taste of freedom of the sky. And in this meditation practice, we are learning that truly we need to break the bondages of the limited thinking, of the limited self-image that we have created of just being a body that is mortal and that is identified by perishable things. This meditation teaches us, we are shifting our identity, our perspective from being chickens to being eagles, from being a bodily being to being an angelic soul. So we will take a moment and just let that seep in, that we are not ordinary beings. We are the eagles that know how to fly. We are the eggs of the angels. A little bit about BRAHMAKUMARIS World Spiritual Organization. It is a non-profit organization, and we teach all these courses here for free. And a little bit about Silicon Valley Center. It's led by Kusum Kejriwal. She's the director of the center for past 25 years. And having spent some time with Kusum Ben, she is the director who actually has been practicing Raja Yoga meditation. Personally, what I understand is 40 years plus. So she has dedicated her life to uplifting the souls. And whoever comes in contact with her cannot leave empty-handed and will receive a gift of virtue from her. She has this keen insight on just seeing the hidden virtues within each person. So would like to let you know about the announcements, which you can see there's definitely worth making sure that you do. Every Saturday, there is a seminar at the same time that personally would recommend. And also there is live guided meditation every day from 7:30